Hello, my friends. Your angels and guides want you to know that not everything is always going to be as it seems. We're not always going to understand what we went through and why. We're not always going to understand why we had to go through pain, through loss, through heartbreak in our life. I understand what a lot of you have felt, and putting myself out here in a position, a very vulnerable position, does not only bring me healing because it helps to talk about what you've been through. It helps to have people understand that are watching that don't necessarily know me or know my story. I have been seeing spirits in the other side since I was a very little girl. From what I was told growing up, no one else in my family could do this. Later on in my years, I found out that this came from my grandma's side. This would be my mom's mom's side, maternal grandmother. But I also have Cherokee Indian in me. So definitely a lot from that as well. It's just not anything anyone really talked about. No one understood when I said that I could understand animals or what they were trying to communicate to me. I was very much the black sheep of my family. I was laughed at by people, friends, my sister. I learned very quickly who I could tell about these things that I was experiencing, and who I couldn't tell. I never pushed what I saw and felt on other people. It was more of the comfort level of what I could tell people. And I always knew that I could understand and communicate with animals. And I didn't really care that no one else understood. When I was 10, I started having dreams about what would happen before it did. And a lot of it had to do with death in my immediate family. I had a dream about my grandpa passing away when I was 10, about a week before it happened. And it was never really spoke of afterwards. Everything went really fast. Right after I had the dream, I talked to him on the phone. Within 2 weeks, he was gone. I always felt a sense of guilt. No one spoke to me that it was okay, or that maybe I had abilities, or maybe it was like premonitions, or my angels talking to me, or God. It was more like nobody talked about what happened at all. So I grew up with this fear of when I fell asleep and when I would dream, I was causing that to come true. I was causing that to happen. And so I had a lot of unrestful nights, a lot of crying, a lot of fear, a lot of feeling responsible for things that I could not control. And I carried that with me for a long time. I had very low self-esteem when I was younger, through elementary school, but I was quite an outgoing person. For those of you that know me, know that I own a museum right now. But for 20 years prior to that, raising kids, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was a hairstylist. So I owned my own salon. I traveled and did hair sales. I worked for a salon. I did all of it. Every aspect of doing hair that you could do, and I loved it, and it gave me time and freedom to stay home with my kids. But it wasn't always like that. I went through a lot of confusion. I went through not knowing what I should do. And when I was younger, my parents got divorced when I was right after I'd graduated high school. And I remember being told that my mother was not to divorce my father until I graduated. because that's just the way things were. My mom told me this, and my grandma and believed it as well. And I believe in my heart that they felt like they were doing the right thing. Although all I could think of growing up was like, gosh, that's so sad. Like all these years, my mom was miserable and she stayed until I graduated high school, which didn't really make sense to me because I still heard the screaming. I still heard the fighting. I'd sit on my stairs and listen. And that's not healthy at all for a kid going through high school. That's not healthy for any kid, period, no matter what age they are. And I just remember thinking like how sad that she stayed that long when she really didn't have to. So you, as a kid, you get this sense of guilt, like she stayed for me until I moved out. So if you want to continue to hear about this, go to part 2. But this goes into turning 18, and my dad killed himself right after they got divorced. And I'm the one that found him. Part 2. Sorry, guys. This is probably going to be a long one.